to these charges. And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Have you had enough time to speak with your lawyer, Ms. Ashley Merchant, about all of the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this indictment, including any potential defenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss your case with her?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with her services?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
Yes, we do.
Do you waive any and all defects of any in the indictment?
Yes, we do.
Have you been arrested on these charges?
Yes, ma'am.
The state is unaware at this time of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you or your attorney know of any outstanding warrants related to these charges?
No.
Do you understand that if you are sentenced as a recidivist under 17-10-7A or C, you will serve the entire portion of that, B or C, you will serve the entire prison portion of that sentence imposed without the possibility of parole, and that this is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if your guilty plea is a blind plea or also called a non-negotiated plea, the state will still recommend a sentence of 49 years to the court?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you aware of the state's offer of 49 years, and did you discuss this with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that the court can impose any sentence authorized by law, including a higher sentence than that recommended by the state, up to the maximum sentence on each charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you enter a non-negotiated plea, you do not have a right to withdraw your plea once the sentence has been announced? Is he going to be allowed to withdraw his plea? Well, you will be allowed to
If you
withdraw.
don't like what I sentenced to, you can withdraw it now.
Do you understand that this is a guilty plea which is permanently recorded on your criminal history?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to say if you don't like it. You can't say.
Do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you are currently on probation, your probation may be revoked based upon your entering a guilty plea today?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you are placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you are not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you are not a United States citizen, a guilty plea conviction will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, just like a conviction at trial would, and this is true regardless of any advice by your attorney or anyone else?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial? For example, your guilty plea may affect the right to vote, the right to hold public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transport a firearm, you will be guilty of a felony which carries a sentence of 1 to 5 years in prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you went to trial, you would have the right to trial by jury, the right to see, hear, and confront witnesses called to testify against you, and the right to testify or to remain silent and not incriminate yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights? You are giving up the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to assistance of counsel hired by you or to court-appointed counsel if you cannot afford an attorney at a trial of your case, the right to the presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable the right to appeal if convicted of these charges at the trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea?
No, ma'am.
Is it your decision to waive these rights and enter a plea of guilty because you are in fact guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to the charges of, at this point, you want me to go through and list the counts you would be actually pleading to because of mergers and vacates? You would be pleading to count 1. You would be pleading to count 1, homicide by vehicle in the first degree. The state of law clause counts 2 and 3 because they would vacate factually as an operation of law if he was convicted at trial. He would plead guilty to count 5, serious injury by vehicle. We would null cross counts 4 and 6 because as well they would be vacated factually as an operation of law if he were to be convicted at trial. He will plead guilty to count 9, serious injury by vehicle. We will now cross count 7 and 8. For the same reason, if he were convicted at trial, they would be vacated as operation of law. Count 10, possession of heroin. Count 11, driving under the influence of a controlled substance, which would merge into count 1.
Which count was it?
Count 11.
So 1, 5, 9, 11.
And 10. Count 12, driving under the influence of drugs or estate, which would merge into count 5. Count 13, reckless driving, which would merge into count 9. And count 14, driving on the wrong side of the road. Would you be able to?
So what happens? So you enter a guilty plea of 1, 5, 9, 11, 10, 11, 14,
12, 13, and 14.
13, 14.
And Judge, not that it's extremely important at this point, but it's our position that count 14, that would also merge driving on the wrong side of the road. That's the underlying reckless driving. I don't think it's going to make much difference, but that is our position, and that misdemeanor merges.
How do you plead to the charges of homicide by vehicle in the first degree, serious injury by vehicle? How do you plead to count 1, homicide by vehicle in the first degree, count 5, serious injury by vehicle, count 9, serious injury by vehicle, count 10, possession of heroin, count 11, driving under the influence of a controlled substance, count 12, driving under the influence of drugs less safe, count 13, reckless driving, and count 14, driving on the wrong side of the road, and indictment number 16, SC 144972.
I plead guilty.
Is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with the full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you may have only a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have only 4 years from today for a felony charge and 12 months from today for a misdemeanor charge to file a habeas corpus petition challenging this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had a chance to review this indictment with your attorney? And is this your signature on the indictment?
Yes, ma'am.
You want the indictment and this on here, so you have things to do. Your Honor, if the state were to proceed with trial, we believe that the following facts would be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. On April 15, 2016, at approximately 18:55 hours, Ryan Lisabeth drove his Toyota Corolla onto the sidewalk near the intersection of Joseph E. Boone Boulevard and Mason Town Road, striking Isaiah Ward, Roland Ward, and Timothy Hood, all of whom were standing on the sidewalk, walking to the convenience store to get a bag of chips. Isaiah Ward died from the injuries that he suffered at the time of the impact. Roland suffered broken legs, skull fractures, and a broken pelvis. And Timothy Hood also suffered a broken pelvis and a fractured skull. Lisabeth is a heroin addict, and after lead investigator Thomas police and Mirandized him on the scene, he admitted to purchasing heroin at an apartment complex off of Joseph E. Boone Boulevard immediately prior to the accident. He next stated that at approximately 18:45 hours or 6:45 p.m., he injected said heroin and then piloted his vehicle back onto Joseph E. Boone Boulevard. The next thing he remembered was the police officers pulling him from the vehicle. Officer Jamie Young, who first arrived on the scene, in addition to seeing the children strewn about the ground, he did notice that Ryan Lisabeth's eyes were constricted, too constricted due to the light that was around the area, and he immediately saw that as a sign of being high on opioid use or heroin. A plain research of the vehicle revealed a syringe in the driver's seat, and there was also a small baggie containing a white substance in the vehicle. The substance was tested, and it came back positive as heroin. In addition to striking the children, he also struck the fender of a Ford F-150 truck, and he also struck another car as it was driving along the street as well. In addition to the facts stated, Your Honor, there were several witnesses that saw the incident and stated that the children flew as high in the sky as to fly as tall as the street light. And the children landed all over the guardrail. And Your Honor, if you look at the diagram that we have, it shows the travel of Mr. Lisabeth's vehicle for the accident. He was traveling this direction on Joseph E. Boone. He hit the fender of this car and careened onto the sidewalk where the children were walking. All of the children landed on this side, which is a hill going down in a grassy area of the barricade. The car then travels here and hits another vehicle and comes to rest at this point. The car is still on, and it is the car is still on. A huge crowd gathers to try to prevent him from running if he would have been able to run, and there were several witnesses at the scene. In addition, the black box that was recovered from the car shows that the vehicle never pressed the brakes. There was no attempt to stop before any of the impacts at this time, and the vehicle was traveling at a top speed of 42 miles per hour once it hit the children. Mr. Lisabeth has been properly recidivized. He is recidivized under subsections A and C. The state filed notice on October 6th of 2016 that we will be seeking recidivist punishment for Ryan Lisabeth. There is a possession of cocaine conviction, state exhibit number 1 out of Cherokee County. The arrest date on that case was August 16th of 2006. The sentencing date was April 19th of 2007. And that case is case number 07-CR0180. The charges in the indictment, Your Honor, were violation of the Controlled Substances Act, for possession of cocaine and marijuana. State's Exhibit number 2, conviction number 09CR0395, also out of Cherokee County, and that is a conviction for burglary and forgery. The conviction date, the arrest date is December 31st, 2008. The sentencing date was April 16th of 2009. State's Exhibit number 3, conviction, indictment number 10CR0125. And that is also out of Cherokee County. And that is also for a charge of possession of cocaine. The arrest date was October 18th of 2009. The sentencing date was February 10th, 2010. Conviction number, indictment number 13SC119512, which is out of Fulton County, which is a conviction for the possession of heroin and possession and use of drug-related objects. This was an arrest date of May 26th of 2013 and a sentencing date of October 24th of 2013. There's also a conviction out of Fayetteville Municipal Court. The violation date was December 1st of 2011. The court date was May 13th of 2012. This is a conviction for driving while your license is suspended. And Your Honor, the state would tender these certified convictions into the
Ms. Merchant, I assume you've seen this?
I have, Judge. They served those on us, and they all appear to be in order.
All right. Anything else?
Your Honor, in addition, we do have the victim's family, and the state would like to make some statements in support of the victims of this case. But for those reasons, the state is asking for, on count 1, homicide by vehicle, we are asking for 15 years to serve. On count 5, serious injury by vehicle, we're asking for 15 years to serve to be consecutive to count 1. For count 9, serious injury by vehicle, we are also asking for 15 years to serve concurrent to count 5. For count 10,
Did you say concurrent?
I mean consecutive, I'm sorry. Consecutive to count 5. We're asking for, on count 10, possession of heroin. The state is asking for 3 years to serve, which would be consecutive to count 9. On count 11, driving under the influence of a controlled substance misdemeanor, we're asking for 12 months to serve, which would merge with count 1. For count 12, driving under the influence of drugs, let's say we're asking for 12 months to serve, which would merge with count 5. For count 13, reckless driving, we're asking for 12 months to serve, which will merge with count 9. And for count 14, driving on the wrong side of the road, we're asking for 12 months to serve, consecutive to count 10, for a total of 49 years.
All right, Ms. Elizabeth, did you understand all the rights that Ms. Griffin just stated to you?
Yes, sir, I do.
You understand that by entering this guilty plea, you're giving up your right to trial by jury. In a jury trial, you have the right to cross-examination of state's witnesses. You also have an opportunity to present, you're also giving up your right to present defense witnesses to testify on your behalf. You're also giving up your right to testify to the jury if you wish to do so, understanding that you have an absolute right to remain silent. And then if you choose to exercise that right at trial, I would instruct the jury that they should draw no adverse influence from your failure to testify. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a sufficient amount of time to discuss your case with your attorneys, Mr. and Ms. Marchant?
Yes, sir, I have.
Are you satisfied with the counsel that they provided to you?
Yes, sir.
Counsel?
Judge, if we may, we've got some folks that we'd like to testify. I've got a letter from his mother and from his father. And then we've got someone who has been working with him on addiction and can sort of give us all some light on that. So I'd like to present those witnesses. I know that the state has some
Let me ask you to have a seat at the council table and
Thank you, Judge.
start that process. I'll ask Mr. Elizabeth, you'll just sit beside your attorneys, please. I'll ask the state to go forward first.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I would first like to start by having the family members of the victim speak before I have my remarks, Your Honor. Mr. LaFreddy Williams will be speaking on behalf of Isaiah and Roland.
Just have them step up to the microphone, please. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. Hold on one second. Sir, would you please tell me your name again?
LaFreddy Smith.
Fred Smith?
LaFreddy Smith.
Can you spell that?
Lafreddie.
All right. Mr. Smith, what would you like to tell me?
I want to start off by saying this whole ordeal has been extremely hard on my family, Timothy Hood's family, and also the Lisabeth family. I wanted to talk to you guys to let you guys know how Isaiah and Roland, how they were before this incident. I would like to describe Isaiah. He was a kid, a little boy that was filled with life. He had dreams, he had ambitions. There was a lot of stuff that he wanted to do. There's a lot of stuff that he wanted to do. And I feel like he has been robbed. He has been robbed of that. It's hard for me, and it's extremely hard for the two mothers of the kids that's involved, because one of them, she will never get to see her son again. He won't know what it's like to go to prom. He won't know what it's like to graduate from high school. And it's just hard. As for Roland can't make sense of anything that has happened. I mean, he's so affected, he's so traumatized by it. It's like he can't focus in school. He's constantly getting in trouble. You know, oftentimes I'm having to go to my sister-in-law's place of employment just to talk to her, just to console her, and also to talk to the kids to let them know that said, hey, you know, everything is going to be okay. You know, and I hate to say it like this, but my nephew Roland right now, he has a fear of Caucasians, of a Caucasian people, because in his eyes he's saying that, you know, they took my brother. They, not one individual, they. And it's like, how do you convince a 12-year-old that, you know, all Caucasian peoples are not the same, based off the actions of one individual? I really wasn't prepared to even come up here and say anything, because it's just been overwhelming, and I don't know. I don't know.
I appreciate you coming down to support your family. Who's your next speaker?
Your Honor, Teresa Lawrence, who's the mother of Timothy Hood, would like to be heard.
Good morning, sir. My name is Teresa Lawrence. I'm the mother of Timothy Hood. I'm thankful that this day has come and we're able to bring closure to everything. I wrote several speeches, sir, but after he's taken a guilty plea, I don't.
How's Timothy doing?
Right now, my son he's trying to cope, sir. He's not allowed to play no sports or or do anything. No football. I had to take him out of football. He's not allowed. He wanted to go to college and be, well, he's going to college. He want to be culinary arts. He want to go to college and be culinary arts. He's in special ed now. Nothing wrong with that, you know. I'm trying to teach him that there's nothing wrong with that. He's still in and out. He's not able to do, if you tell him to do 2 or 3 things, he's not able to do nothing but one. He's being picked on by the kids, but he's coping, you know. And I have mercy for us all, you know. Teach my kids, you know, if you do wrong, you stand up for what you've done wrong. You take that responsibility. And I leave here today asking for, you know, that justice be done for all 3 kids, because all 3 of them, sir, had a future. We are parents. You do have good parents, you know, that still resides where we stay, but I mean, we're making a living for our kids, and I don't know, sir. I came here with so many thoughts this morning, but hearing that he took a guilty plea, I just felt like he kind of stood up, you know, for some of his wrong. I don't have nothing against nobody, and I just ask that justice be done, and thank y'all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Sorry for your difficulties and your sons.
Your Honor, Isaiah Ward was 9 years old, Roland Ward was 11 years old, and Timothy Hood was 13 years old on April 15, 2016. Due to the actions of Ryan Lisabeth, 2 families' lives have been changed forever. Michelle Ward lost a son, and she has another son that has been seriously injured and is coping with extreme emotional difficulties. I cannot speak to Ms. Ward on any occasion where she does not break down and cry and talk about how much she misses Isaiah and how much her kids miss Isaiah and how much their family is missing a part of their life. She is trying to cope. She could not speak today, and I'm speaking on her behalf because she is always overcome with so much emotion. The injuries sustained by Isaiah made him unrecognizable to her on the day that he died. All 3 of the children were taken to the hospital. It was so much confusion that the mothers of these boys didn't even know which hospital that the children had been taken to. They had all heard that one child had died, but no one knew whose child it was. And they were running from hospital to hospital trying to figure out where their babies were. And once she discovered that it was Isaiah, she has had a hard road to bear. Roland had suffered from a broken shin, a broken pelvis, and they told him that it would take him 6 to 8 months to have to learn to walk again. Fortunately for him, and he persevered, and it only took him 4 weeks to learn to walk again. He receives counseling 3 times a week at his home, and he has been diagnosed with ADHD after this incident. He has had problems coping at school. He can't even say Isaiah's name. His mother has indicated that he has just shut down and just keeps everyone out. And he's not the same child that he was prior to this accident. Isaiah suffered from a broken neck and pelvis. His face had to actually be sewn back together so that he could be recognized. And he suffered for 3 days in that hospital before he was pronounced dead. Timothy was comatose for 3 to 4 weeks and suffered from a broken pelvis. He had 32 stitches on the leg, and his leg was broken. He's also suffered from vision and auditory problems and has suffered from traumatic brain injury, and I believe his mother stated that he can no longer play sports and things of that nature because of his brain injuries. And he is also receiving counseling to overcome his obstacles that he has had to endure since this accident. We're going to hear from the defense, and we're going to hear from members that support Mr. Lisabeth, but the state is asking you to consider that he has had chance after chance after chance to get his act together. These boys' possibilities have been limited due to his actions. Isaiah has no more future. His mother is not going to see him go to prom. His mother is not going to see him get married. His mother is not going to welcome any grandchildren from him due to the actions of Ryan Lisabeth. And when you're considering your sentence, Your Honor, what I'm asking you to consider is Isaiah, Roland, and Timothy, because they didn't have the opportunities or the chances that Ryan Lisabeth has had. He's had 5 felony convictions, or 5 or 4 felony convictions, and he still hasn't gotten his act right. And he left a rehab center to go and purchase the heroin. He purchased the heroin at 6:45. 911 was called at 6:59. That's 14 minutes after. And he was getting high in the car while driving. That is reckless, and it is a disregard for anyone else's well-being. And these children were going to the store to buy a bag of chips. Not bothering anyone, not doing anything, but trying to get a bag of chips. And I would ask you, when you consider your sentence, to consider all of the possibilities, all of the things that have been taken from Michelle Ward and her family and Miss Lawrence and her family. And we're asking that you sentence him to 49 years, which is the maximum allowed under the indictment and under the plea, because we believe it speaks justice and that it is what is required for what happened on that day.
All right, Ms. Marshall.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, by way of sort of an opening argument, I want to give you kind of a roadmap of what I intend to show here today, and tell you our reasons for bringing these people and what we're talking about. When we first talked about doing a non-negotiated plea in this case, Mr. Lisabeth was not recidivized at that point. So whatever sentence he was going to be given was something that was parole eligible. At this point, whatever sentence you give him, he does day for day, because he is a recidivist. He does have those prior convictions. They're all prior drug-related convictions, no violence, but still, he, because of the volume of those convictions, he'll do day for day. And that's why we're asking for much lower than what the state is recommending in this case. We're bringing Dr. Bush, and I want to explain why, because I know it may be confusing. Why are we bringing a mitigation expert? Why are we bringing someone to talk about toxicology and addiction? The reason that we're bringing Dr. Bush is to give us some answers, to give everyone some answers. Why did this happen? How does this happen? What happens? Why does an addict leave recovery, leave detox, and go and use? Why does he repeatedly get in trouble? Why does he have 4 felony convictions? Why has he been, you're going to hear, he's been to RSAT. He has been to numerous drug rehabs. He's been through drug court. I became involved with Mr. Lisabeth and the Lisabeth family for several years ago when he was in Cherokee County drug court. And all of those 3 Cherokee County cases that the state recidivized him with, all 3 of those felonies, were all drug court cases. He had issues. He kept me busy going in for relapses with drug court. But I can tell you, when this happened and he called me, I immediately thought back to when the last time I represented him in drug court, and he was faced with a choice. The judge in that case said, we can revoke 6 months. He had about 18 months left. We can revoke 6 months. You'll get credit for, you've already done 4 months or something like that. I mean, he would get out in like a month. Or we'll put you back in drug court if you're serious about this. And he chose to go back into drug court, and they added significant time to his sentence so he could go back into drug court. He didn't take the easy way out. He has continually gone into treatment. So this is a person who has failed at repeated attempts, but he has made those. And so I think that speaks to his character in wanting to fight this addiction and wanting to fight what is going on. And I don't understand it. And so I wanted to talk to an expert about why does a heroin addict continue to have to use? What happened in this case? What makes this case different than every other time that he used? And this case was also unique because he did overdose. He was given Narcan. He did overdose. And so when the EMTs got there, they administered this life-saving drug, Narcan, to him because he had overdosed. And the evidence in this case shows that he did not break. He didn't stop. He was completely out at the time of this accident because we believe he had already suffered that overdose based on the time frame and when the EMTs had to give him the Narcan. So it was a situation where he was not even conscious at the time of this accident. That doesn't relieve guilt, and we know that. The guilt comes from the choice of going down there, taking the drugs, sitting in his car, using those drugs, and then driving. Moments later, when he overdosed, he lost control of the car, obviously, and didn't even try to brake. I mean, you can tell from the demonstration the state has that there was no, I mean, he wasn't conscious. And the officer even admitted that that was what happened at the preliminary hearing. So Dr. Bush can give us some answers. I know that all of the families in this case have suffered, and all of them probably want some type of answers as to how the addicted brain works, how a person can overdose, because we believe strongly that this heroin was one of those kinds that's been plaguing our city, that was laced with some other drugs, laced with fentanyl, based on the lab reports and based on the severe reaction that Mr. Lisabeth had, and that's what caused that overdose. You're also going to hear from his mom and his dad, and we've got quite a few family members here from the Lisabeth family. I'll have them all stand up later, supporting him. But the question at the end of all this is going to come down to whether or not you think Ryan Lisabeth is redeemable, essentially, because the sentence that the state is asking for, 49 years to the door, that says he's done. That says we don't think he's redeemable. That says send him away, lock him up, he's never getting out. And if he does get out, he'll be much older, and he will not have received any treatment while in prison. How the prison system works is
hopefully he will not have received any heroin either.
Well, and hopefully, yes, Judge, hopefully. What is happening right now in the prison system, though, is that if you're getting a sentence above 20 years, you're not going to be eligible for certain programs, you're not going to be eligible for treatment and things like that. So any sentence under 20 years will allow the prison system to at least send him to places that should be able to help him. And Dr. Bush is going to talk about that a little bit, what types of treatment might work at this point and the advances, because there are some significant recent advances now that the DSM has actually added this as a mental disorder. It's actually now in the DSM, this addiction. So there's some significant treatment options that weren't available before. But I just wanted to give you kind of a roadmap, and if we could, I'm happy to put Dr. Bush up here, or he can take the stand, whatever you all prefer. Okay. I think he's outside.
Sheriff, summon Dr. Bush, please.
Thank you.
Sergeant, you take down the state's sign waiver and put the 555, please. Dr. Bush, come on up. Sit all right, please, sir. Do this, turn and face the sergeant and take another question.
Sir, you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please speak into the mic. State and spell your name for the record.
My name is Jerry Walter Bush, MD, Jerry BWalterBush, MD.
Thank you, Dr. Bush. Where did you go to school?
University of Alabama in Birmingham Medical School.
Okay. And I know you said MD. Do you have a medical degree?
Yes.
And where did you do your post-school work? Tell us about that, your post-schooling.
I did residency in internal medicine at Caraway Methodist Medical Center in Birmingham.
Okay. And have you been qualified as an expert in court before?
Yes.
And in what areas?
Internal medicine, pharmacology, toxicology.
And tell us about what your practice is right now, what you do primarily.
Currently, my practice involves, a part is involved in, I'm certified to treat people that are addicted to opiate medications. You got to be certified. I'm certified for several years, and you have a separate DEA number and everything. And you treat people with a medication called buprenorphine, either in the form of Suboxone or
What's your specialty, doctor?
I'm board certified in internal medicine, sir. Board certified in internal medicine.
Internal medicine.
Can I have some water?
And just oh yes, water. Will you just tell the court again what areas you've been certified as an expert in court?
Okay. Thank you. Internal medicine, board certified, and that involves the treatment primarily of adult patients. And I've been accepted as expert in several courts in toxicology and pharmacology.
In what states have you testified as an expert?
Now, testified, not depots.
Not well, any testimony, whether it be in court or in a deposition.
Okay. Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, I don't think, Tennessee, deposition,
Are you
New Jersey,
so numerous different states?
numerous.
And tell us about any associations or organizations that you belong to or that you're active in.
Well, I don't have any of those kind of things per se. I just
Okay.
have a certain.
Well, what I meant was you said you were board certified. Tell me who certifies that?
The American Board of Internal Medicine.
And earlier you were talking about what your practice relates to now. You're a certified opiate addiction treatment
Yes.
specialist? Okay. And who certifies that?
Organization called SAMHSA, SAMSHA, substance abuse, I forget what the acronym stands for, but, and the DEA.
Okay. And the DEA. All right. And Your Honor, I would just move to admit him as an expert in toxicology, pharmacology. Thank you. Did you have an opportunity to review the discovery and meet with Mr. Lisabeth and his family in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to just first start with talking about the effects of heroin abuse. Tell us about the DSM classification, reclassification, and some recent developments in heroin abuse.
Well, firstly, heroin is primarily manufactured from the morphine that grows on the opium poppy plant. I guess mainly in China, Afghanistan, whatever. And the morphine is changed into heroin. Relatively simple process. The reason heroin is so much more addictive is because the addition of two methyl groups makes it more likely to get into the brain, more so than morphine. And your question, recent events, heroin deaths have skyrocketed because in recent years dealers have been adding certain things to heroin, such as fentanyl, to make it seem like it's stronger, and I guess be able to charge a higher price for it. Fentanyl is using anesthesia, and it's used in patches for people that have metastatic, painful cancer.
So how does it change heroin when fentanyl is added to it?
It makes it exponentially more likely for somebody to die,
Okay.
because it is 80 to 100% more potent than morphine, and 50% more potent than heroin.
And die from an overdose? Is that what you mean when you said that they would die? Okay. And but it's also an opioid, so it would show up on a test as an opiate.
Yes.
Okay. Would the person taking the heroin, if they bought it on the street, would they have any way to know if they were getting heroin that was laced with something like fentanyl before they took it?
Yeah. In my experience, more likely than not, they wouldn't be told that.
Okay.
They would just experience the added sensation in order to get more revenue for the drug dealer.
Okay. Does it look the same?
No, it's heroin can be a little bit yellow tinted, and fentanyl powder is white.
It's white.
But I'm not sure it's enough distinction for somebody that's in withdrawal to realize that.
Okay. So if someone was buying, an addict was buying heroin that was laced with fentanyl, there wouldn't be a significant distinction in order for them to know before ingesting that it was laced?
No.
Okay.
But in this case, reportedly, the dealer told Lisabeth that it is stronger than normal, and Ryan told me that he just used half of his normal amount.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your conversations with Ryan and your impressions on this case specifically. What do you think happened with Ryan and on this incident when he took the drugs?
Well, just a little bit of backup. He had been in rehab for detox for, I think, 5-6 days at a place I've got named in North Atlanta. And he was discharged to a sober living house, and he couldn't sleep, and he went looking for the heroin. But as people take drugs like this, they get, of course, tolerance. And the extremes of it are opiate, being opiate naive, not having used it or having not used it for a while, and opioid tolerant, every spectrum in between. Well, one thing is, and I think this was probably part of the reason he got so tuned, was that his tolerance during the time he was off of it had decreased.
Okay.
He did take half of that. But he went to the drug dealer's house. I think he said he'd seen him before. He would normally buy it, the heroin, and shoot it up right there. But Ryan said that usually after the initial flush or whatever, that the withdrawal will be gone. He's much better able to drive away, which he's done several times before. But this time there's something in it that's different. Partially due probably to the decreased tolerance having been in the rehab. But in my opinion, more likely than not, something was added to the heroin that made him become unconscious virtually by the time he got out of the parking lot of the drug dealer's house.
Okay. Can you tell us about what the treatment options are at this point with all the new developments in addiction? What are the treatment options for heroin addicts?
Well, first they need counseling.
Okay.
And intense, like Narcotics Anonymous meetings after they get over the acute process.
Did you have an opportunity to speak with Ryan about, or his family, about the types of treatment that he had received in the past?
Yes. He had received a short course of buprenorphine, Suboxone, whatever, I think a month or so before this incident. And apparently he wanted to get off of everything, and in combination with the fact that whatever doctor it was, I think just giving him 1 8-milligram dose per day, which is totally inadequate for most people, especially heroin addicts. And other treatments, I think he had counseling. They did all they could do, I think.
But I guess my question is, the Suboxone treatment that he received a month prior, would you have done something different?
Yes.
Okay. And do you think that he would need something much longer term than these short stints he was getting?
Well, I would use Suboxone, but a much higher dose.
Okay.
That would take away withdrawals, craving, thinking about it. But there's two opposing forces here. Apparently the doctor just wouldn't give him 1 a day, and Ryan's desire to come off of everything. But you can't just come off of heroin. 85% relapse.
Right.
It's a devastating illness, and it's even worse when there's some family history of some degree of chemical dependency. That may be far back in the genealogy or close to, but I'm not sure I answered your question.
What is I mean, based on your studies and based on what you've seen in your practice, what is the reason for this high rate of relapse? Is there some chemical reason, or?
It is just so euphoric. They chase that same initial high all the time. They never quite get it. And they get to a point over a certain time period where they're not taking it to get high, but to prevent becoming dope sick. And the withdrawal from heroin is, from what I can gather from my study and research, the worst withdrawal from any drug known to mankind.
And I want to ask you about that for a minute. The folks taking it not for the high anymore, but to avoid the withdrawal. Do you think that was present in Ryan's case?
Yes.
And what is it? Tell us about the withdrawal and what it is that they're taking it to try and stop.
Well, heroin, like most of the drugs of opiate abuse, have short half-lives. Therefore, they'll take it, initially they'll get high and then, more doses. And then as they get farther into it and they get try to prevent the dope sick, they just try to get it to prevent that. What was your question again?
Well, how does ability to sleep and function have to do with the withdrawal symptoms?
Oh, that's definitely one of them, but withdrawal can include, usually starts off with some yawning, itching, leg pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, can't concentrate. Their whole focus is on finding drugs. Their whole lives are based on finding drugs.
Is it common to not be able to sleep for a week on end when you're withdrawing from heroin?
Definitely.
Okay. Is that something you talked about with Ryan?
I don't recall specific words, but we talked for an hour and 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm sure we talked about it.
Do some heroin addicts take heroin to regulate their sleep? Instead of, if they're having the withdrawal symptoms and they can't sleep, or they're having all these withdrawal symptoms, so they sometimes take it just to get back to normal?
They take it back to get normal, and the Suboxone does get them back to normal. They can function and work and everything, but he didn't use it just to sleep. That was just an initial bad withdrawal. He just come out of rehab, and so
the reason the Suboxone works is because it helps with the withdrawal mostly.
Yes, and it comes from the same plant as the poppy plant. You got morphine, codeine, thebaine. Thebaine is where they discovered and derived Suboxone. It is unlike the others. It is an opiate, but it doesn't cause respiratory depression. There's a soothing effect. You can't really overdose on it. It's just extremely safe and extremely specific.
What are your thoughts on Ryan going forward? If he is redeemable, if he can be treated for these addictions? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe that he needs continual counseling and that sort of a thing, both individual and family. And I think that he should be on Suboxone probably for the rest of his life at some dose.
So you think with Suboxone and therapy and counseling that his addiction could potentially be manageable?
Right. If he was amenable to staying on the Suboxone and following doctor's directions.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Ms. Grant, any questions, Doctor?
Yes. You just stated that if he's on the Suboxone and follows the directions of his doctor, were his prior treatments, were they inpatient or outpatient?
Well, the Suboxone is normally outpatient, but he has been inpatient, as I recall, several times.
So, how many years, first of all, how long have you talked to Ryan and Elizabeth or treated him?
I've never treated him. I was given permission to see him and interview him in Fulton County Jail in December, I think, and we talked one-on-one 2.25 hours.
For how many hours?
2.25.
2.25 hours? So your only interaction with him was for 2.25 hours?
Yes, and that's more than most cases I have.
Okay. So, you reviewed his treatment records?
Yes.
And he was in RSAT before, which is a treatment that's given in jail?
I recall seeing that acronym, but I don't know the specifics of what treatment he was given in jail exactly. I think it was some counseling sessions.
Okay. And the sober living house, this was a place where he could come and go as he pleased, or was it a place where he was locked down, or he didn't have free mobility?
It was a sober living house where apparently he could come and go as he pleased.
Okay, so you said he had been in detox for 5 to 6 days. Is that normal?
Well, it's kind of a misnomer because you really can't detox off of heroin in that amount of time. But that's what, I believe he was in there for about 6 days or so, and then was sent to a sober living house.
Okay. So, do you know how many years he had been trying to get treatment for his addiction?
As I recall, he started using heroin maybe 10 years prior. Could you ask the question again, please?
You answered it.
Okay.
And you said he indicated to you that he would go and get the drugs and get high and drive several times?
Yes. Well, he said, like I said, that he would normally fix or shoot there, and that he would have initial, whatever, euphoria initially, and then the withdrawal symptoms would abate, and he was able to drive more safely than he...
But he would still be high on heroin when he was driving?
Yes.
All right, I have no other questions.
All right, thank you, Doctor.
One question. Thank you. Doctor, someday if he follows counseling and treatment and this Suboxone, do you believe, in your opinion, he would be able to be a safe member of society?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
I believe so.
Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, sir.
You're free to go back to work. Are you going to witness?
Your Honor, I would ask David Lisabeth to come. He's got a letter that he's prepared, a statement.
All right.
Ready to read your statement?
David?
You ready to read your statement? You want me to read it? Okay. Well, I can read that. Debbie, do you want to read your statement, or you want me to read it? Okay. If you don't mind, I'll just read their statement. That's
All right.
acceptable.
Where's Debbie?
Do you want me to just, let me just introduce everyone, just so you know.
Right.
So this is Ryan's father, David. If you wanted to stand up and say your name for the record and your relationship to Ryan. This is his mother and father.
Yeah.
And then we can just, if you guys can just go down the line, stand up and say your relationship to Ryan. Your name, please.
I'm Catherine Elizabeth, his sister. And he's the next one, his sister.
Michael Maxwell's brother-in-law.
Brian Elizabeth, his brother.
Is it for serious sister?
I can't hear you,
You have to speak up loud so Ms. Fisher can hear you.
Alicia Torres Gary, his sister-in-law.
Ronald Elizabeth, his uncle?
Ronald?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy Wansky is aunt.
Ms. Wansky, how do you spell your last name?
W-O-N-S-K-I.
All right, thank you.
I'm Ann Reinhardt, I'm his aunt.
Sue Fraley from Salem.
Fraley?
Fraley.
All right.
And Mrs. Elizabeth says that she will read her. No. Thank you. Judge, she's got a statement from her mother who couldn't be here as well, and then hers as well. She can just read those.
Dear Judge Newkirk, I'm writing this letter to ask for leniency and discretion in your sentencing for Ryan. I'm fully aware of the serious nature of the case against Ryan. Ryan is my grandson, and his actions have brought heartache to me, to his family, and to the families of the victims in this case. Since my retirement in 2005, I've lived in Georgia for at least 3 to 9 months in the year. And since this time, I've had close contact with Ryan and have been able to see what a caring person he really is, and I've grown very attached to him. Ryan is a very caring person. He's never shown any tendency to violence. Ryan's an intelligent young man who is intending to go to college and finish his education. Ryan's an accomplished woodworker who has used his skills to make beautiful furniture. He has really tried to rehabilitate himself and fight off the demons of drug addiction. And he's just finished a 7-day detox program 2 days before the tragic accident. His intention was to enroll in college. I realize a prison sentence lies in his future, but the purpose of this letter is to ask you to exert some leniency in your sentencing. While I realize there must be consequences for his actions, I feel like a long prison sentence would not serve the best interest for Ryan or the state of Georgia. He's not a hardened criminal, and I would humbly ask that you sentence him to a lower security prison where he could have an opportunity to complete his education and rehabilitate his life. Respectfully, Jean Fulcher. And for me, this was the hardest thing I've ever written, and I have pondered it. How do I start to write a letter to say anything regarding the tragic events that occurred on April 15? I mourn for the loss of Isaiah, and I've prayed for the recovery of both Timothy and Roland. Not just for their physical recovery, but for their emotional recovery. I pray for their families. I have spent my entire life working with children, and this was the worst possible nightmare ever, to get a phone call. My heart just pours out to them, to the community, and to everyone involved. But I also pray for my son, for in my heart I know he did not mean to do this. And I know if he wasn't using, he'd have been the first one there to try to offer assistance. So I asked myself also why, and we have been struggling with this addiction with Ryan since he was 16. He has been in and out of rehabs. He wants to stop this addiction. He took himself to detox. He stayed in detox for 6 days. He went to sober living. He was on the phone with somebody to make arrangements to leave the state to get as far away as he could possibly get. But I asked it. So I've been through this with him, and I have to ask myself, and I have to bring this up, why do the Bluffs exist? And why, as a society, do we not bear some responsibility for their existence? It's not just Ryan. How could we as a society allow children to attend school that has bullet holes through the windows, has armed guards posted outside? We drive by every day and see this. And we know there's heroin. We know they're dealing out of those vacant buildings, and it's been going on for years. Years ago, Ryan went to the Bluffs to go buy heroin, and I tracked his phone because I knew of his addiction and tried to stop him. Somebody at the time that he was in the Bluffs took his phone, and when I contacted the phone, I guess they were playing with me, and they were talking about throwing his body in a dumpster. So I drove directly to the police department to try to get them to help go down with me to locate the phone. They refused. The police department informed me that they would not go into the vacant buildings in the Bluffs. And I could go on with other stories. But at some point, we have to deal with what's going on down there. And I grapple with the addiction and the treatment methodology that we have in play today. Ryan has been struggling for so long. Neurology knows that opiates affect a portion of your brain and damages your brain receptors. The AMA has recently defined opiate addiction as a medical disease. Ryan was fighting as hard as he could against his addiction. During the month of March, he saw a psychiatrist. He was taking Suboxone. He relapsed. He came to me in the driveway crying and begging for help, and I told him to take himself to Sunrise Detox, where they could medically supervise him from detoxing for opiates. He was allowed to stay for 7 days. Upon the release, he entered sober living, which was a supportive living environment for addicts. He knew he could not conquer this alone. He was doing this voluntarily. From Monday to Friday, he was obsessed with not being able to sleep. He had been given something to sleep at Sunrise Detox, but they would not continue any type of sleep aid at the sober living. He was in contact with Dr. Abby Hendricks about a supportive environment, as I had stated earlier, to leave the state, and I was encouraging him to leave and go into a more long-term and supportive environment. And what I mean by long-term is he was ready to go for like 2 years. Sadly, that Friday he relapsed. I've witnessed how hard my son has struggled with the addiction, and I saw and felt his pain and defeat. Your Honor, he is such a good person inside. He would do anything for anybody. He's my child that struggles so hard to do the right thing, and he meets obstacles. I can tell you he is uniquely connected to animals. He's trained horses, sheep, and dogs. He's artistically inclined. He can draw and write poetry. He's well versed and perplexed by current events and versed in literature. He's built barns. He's done fencing. His work ethic is outstanding. He would get up on Christmas morning and light a fire for us and make coffee. I mean, he's a good person. So after considering all of these characteristics, he's still an addict. I ask for your mercy. I ask that he be held accountable. He does need to serve some time, but I also ask for you to allow him the opportunity in his life to make amends for what he's done. We don't know why things happen, and we have to ask God and put things in God's hands, and I pray to God that some good can come out of something so awful. And I think Ryan's way in life is to turn his life around and give to others and try to make amends, and I'm asking you to give him that opportunity. I hope that this letter conveys what a struggle it's been for all of us.
I apologize. This is the first time I've been allowed to address the families of the families of the wards and the hoods. I'd like to say to them and to the community that's been directly affected by this accident, I'd really just like to apologize to them. I'd like to tell the wards that I'm extremely sorry for their loss, and that I wish more than anything that I could reverse time or trade places with their son. But I can't.
I would like to address the families of the wards and the hoods, as well as the community that has been directly affected by this accident. I would like to tell the wards that I am extremely sorry for their loss, and that I wish more than anything that I could reverse time or trade places with your son, but I cannot. I want both the wards and the hoods to know that I am sorry for the pain and suffering I have caused them and their families, and not a day has gone by that I have not thought of and prayed for you all and your sons. I have reflected deeply on and thought about what I would like to say to you all since last April, and I wish there was more I could do or say to express how I feel about what has happened, but there's not. The most I can do is say that I am sorry and that I am praying for you and your families. I hope that you all are able to heal and move forward in your lives, and that your sons are able to do the same. I would also like to apologize to the community and say that I am sorry for what has happened. I am deeply sorry for the pain that was caused and the effects this has had on any and all of you. I hope that everyone can come together for each other and that you can all forgive me of this in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Gordon, Ms. Wood?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Murphy?
No more evidence, just argument.
All right. And let me get this straight. The state's asking court sentence as to counts 1, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Correct?
1, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. I don't believe there's a 15.
Not 15. You're right. Okay.
And Judge, we're asking that you sentence him instead of, I know that they're asking for consecutive time, we're asking for concurrent time. We're asking that you consider giving him concurrent time, and I'll sort of go over the reasons why we think that's appropriate and why we're asking for concurrent time in this case. Judge, even the Attorney General, the Surgeon General of the United States, just this last November, while this case was pending, released the first ever report on substance abuse, and addiction. Dr. Murthy said in that release, we are going to stop treating addiction as a moral failing and start seeing it for what it is, a chronic disease that must be treated with urgency and compassion. And that's what we're asking in this case. We're asking that this be treated, because this was an accident. And I believe that there's no disputing that this was a tragic, tragic accident. The wrongdoing that Mr. Lisabeth is to be punished for is the decision to take drugs while he was behind the wheel of a car. I don't think anybody ever thinks that he intended to harm anyone. He's never had, in his past, he has a criminal past, he has never had anything where he harmed any person. Nothing. No acts of aggression, no acts of violence, nothing. Just repeated in and out of the criminal justice system for drug addiction. Whether or not he's been treated appropriately, I mean, I could go on for 10 hours about the different treatments that he's had. Most of them were court intervention treatments. None of the court intervention treatments include Suboxone. And I can tell you that because drug court prohibits that specifically. And so for years I represented him, 5 or 6 years while he was in and out of drug court, and he was never able to do that, never able to have Suboxone. And now, knowing a little bit more, having researched it, I now realize that what he's been treating all these years was the withdrawal effects. And that's what, unfortunately, it seems like most heroin addicts are treating, the withdrawal. They want to sleep. They're not trying to get high at that point anymore, because they can't even get high. They're just trying to live. And if we can stop treating it the way we've been doing and move forward and treating it differently, treating it as a medical issue where we actually have proven medications for it, maybe we can avoid things like this happening, because he didn't intend to hurt those children. He didn't intend to do any of that. And so whatever sentence you give him, we're just asking that it be reflective of the fact that this was reckless, but this was not intentional. Also, the reason that we're asking that these are all run concurrent as opposed to consecutive like the state's asking is because this was one act. He should be punished for his one act. He did one thing that was wrong. He didn't go out and drive 3 separate times and take 3 separate amounts of heroin in this case and go and try and run over 3 separate children. He did one thing. And so the criminal code says that the range for that is 1 to 15 years. He did affect more than one child in this, more than one person. I mean, he affected a ton of people, a whole city. But this act that we're thinking now about punishing him for, the law says is 1 to 15 years. He did affect more than one person, but his act, which is what the punishment is for, was one act. He overdosed. I mean, it seems to be pretty much undisputed that he overdosed at the time, so that he wasn't even in control of his faculties. And he has taken full responsibility for what started that overdose, the chain of events that led to that. I think the question now for you really is whether or not he's redeemable, whether or not he needs to be locked up and never receive treatment, or whether or not he can, given, I mean, he's going to serve a lengthy, at least a decade more than in prison. At the time that he gets out, I would hope that we've got some significant advances, because now the community is being hurt by the bluffs. The community is being hurt by the availability of heroin on every corner down there, by the fact that this heroin is being laced with fentanyl. Hopefully it's not there. Hopefully we are treating these as medical conditions and not just incarcerating. And we've started that trend. Governor Deal has increased funding for drug courts, has increased alternatives to prison, RSAT. He's released a ton of drug offenders. I mean, you used to be able to get 20 years for possession, now you can get 3. So obviously society is moving towards not incarcerating drug addicts, but actually trying to make them better so that they don't cause accidents like this and things like this. And so we're asking that all of these be run at the same time. That's in line with sentences around the state. The state average right now is 13 years for 2016 for vehicular homicide cases like this. In the last decade, it's ranged anywhere from 12 years, 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, 16 years. Those are different state averages. So what we're asking for, a concurrent sentence of 15 years, not consecutive, is in line with what other offenders around the state. And the significant difference in this case is that he's a recidivist. So whatever number you give him, he's serving that. If you gave him 20 years, he has to serve every day of 20 years. Where before the state recidivized him, he would have maybe served a third of that. And so whatever you give him now, he will serve day for day. The significant thing with the 20-year sentence is that there are some major institutes in Georgia. If you have 20 years or above, you have to go to one of those. And he will come out a hardened criminal from one of those institutes. Georgia State Prison in Reedsville, Telfair, some of the more, there's 5 of the major prisons. And any sentence, for some reason, there's an arbitrary number. If you get 20 years or more, you have to go to one of those major institutes. And so that's one of the other reasons that we're asking that you find some compassion for him in he's going to be a member of society again. So do we want him to serve his time at a maximum security prison where there's no treatment options available, he gets no therapy, he gets nothing? We're basically saying that we're locking him away. I mean, we're locking him away and throwing away the key, and he's not redeemable. And this is an addiction. This is a medical addiction. So we just are hoping that he wants to take responsibility. He's wanted to take responsibility since on the scene. I mean, he admitted to everything on the scene. He's wanted to take responsibility from day one. I reached out to the state within the first week about him taking responsibility. He wanted to provide information to help combat this in the Bluffs, help stop this from happening to other people. So he definitely is remorseful. And we would just ask that you consider all of that when you sentence him.
I'll do so. I appreciate your arguments and the show of support from both sides today on behalf of your loved ones. Unfortunately, it's the families that suffer tremendously in cases like this, in addition to the young men and defendant as well. We'll take a 10-minute recess.
Yeah, I used to stay up, step outside, you was gonna kind of know, you used to stay up on the porch.
home. Make it all sides of the please. Keep all the words north and south. Quiet, please. Make yourself to the side. Or don't vibrate. Phone rings. All right, court room, please. Judge in the court now residing. Remain seated, please. Ms. Elizabeth, I've heard everything that your attorneys have presented, and they've obviously done an awful lot of work in your defense in providing you the best defense they could in what, by all appearances, is an indefensible case, given the facts of the case. But they've done a good job for you, and I've listened seriously to everything that's been said. And I mean it. I mean, these folks out here suffer for things that our kids do, things that family members do. But I understand that, but for the drugs, and I presume your property crimes are probably a result of the drugs as well, you're probably a nice guy. I'm sure you have talents, woodworking, artistic, and you have a lot to give, and I hope that eventually you'll be able to give back to somebody else and maybe talk to other people and keep them from walking down the same road that you've walked. You're obviously intelligent. You obviously have a very loving family. Those young boys do too. And it's just a tough, tough deal. And this is not the first time I've had a case like this, unfortunately. It seems like yesterday I sentenced a young fellow to 45 years. He took 3 lives, DUI, driving the wrong way on I-85. Nice guy, a couple prior DUIs. But the consequences of our errors in judgment can have devastating effects. And this is such a case. I'm going to do the best I can in keeping with my sentencing practices over the last 19 years as a judge and 15 years as an assistant DA, and making recommendations to judges in dealing with yet other cases just like this. As to count 1, I'm going to sentence you to 15 years to serve. Count 5, count 2, 3, and 4 will be vacated. Count 5, I'll sentence you to 15 years to serve, to run consecutive to count 1. Count 6, 7, 8 will be vacated. Count 9, I'll sentence you to 15 years to run concurrent with count 5. As to count 10, I'll sentence you to 3 years to run concurrent with count 5. Count 11, I believe, would merge into count 1. Count 12, I believe, would merge into count 1.
We can't close merges with
Well, count 1 is motor vehicle.
Oh, yes, you're right, Your Honor. You're right.
Count 13 will merge into count 9. The serious injury by reckless driving. And count 14 will merge into count 13 and 9. Any disagreement as to the merger issue?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Families, thank you for coming. Thank you.
Oh, Judge, we need to know if he's going to accept it or not. Thanks, Melanie. Well, we're going to need him back out.
Oh, yeah, we need back out. I need Mr. Lewis to get back out, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, additionally to, you didn't say we were sentencing him as recidivist under ASC.
You're right.
Sit down, Judge.
No, he can stand right there, please. I just need your client out here for one more, you and your husband. Ms. Elizabeth, I failed to ask you, as I told you during the plea colloquy, you have a right to withdraw your plea if you don't like what I sentenced you to, or if you can't live with it. So if you need some time to speak to your attorneys before answering me, I'll give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes to talk to your attorneys. If you know now, you can answer me.
Just for clarification, it's 30 years is the
Right.
sentence.
That's correct. That's correct.
Could I just have just 2 minutes real quick?
I'll be happy to let you speak to your attorneys, and I am sentencing you as requested by the state under 1710(7) A and C. I believe the state's made proper showing. John? Melanie, these exhibits weren't, they were.
Jeremy. Morris.
Sorry, it takes me a while.
Well, Mr. Morris keeps showing up at the same frequency as he has the last 2 weeks. I know him very well.
And I think we forgot already since.
Mr. Elizabeth, what's your pleasure?
I'm going to accept.
All right. Good luck. You have 4 years from today's date to file a writ of habeas corpus if you feel for any reason that you're being held unlawfully. And good luck to you, and I hope that you're able to do some good for people down the road.
Thank you.
And family members, as I said, thank you for coming down today. The city was devastated, absolutely devastated when this happened. And I did the best I could for you, and understanding the grief and sorrow that exists in this courtroom for those young men. Thank you.